So the next fable I'm going to look at is Kaguya, and looking at her at first glance, you would assume that she is a highly defensive character, and that is very true, but she can also be used in a number of other ways, such as being able to retaliate on her opponent's turns when they attack her. She is able to retaliate by using some of her cards to do so, and she's also great at range, as she can use some of her cards at great distances to be able to attack her opponents. So again, depending upon your playstyle, you can use her in a variety of different ways, but again, of course, her high defense and her ability to gain all kinds of different benefits based on where her defense is going to also be key to utilizing her. So as an opponent playing against her, you're going to want to really focus on doing lots of damage quickly, and then also being able to do high amounts of damage throughout each of your turns to reduce the amount of defense that she has, so that she doesn't get to take advantage of those cards, especially later in the game as she gets deeper into some of her decks, where she's going to unlock those abilities to be able to gain additional defense each turn, as well as bringing that threshold of defense higher, where she can potentially push it all the way to 9, which is the most of any character in the game. So those will be the keys to defeating her. As far as playing as her, again, you're going to have to choose your play style, whether you want to be retaliation, or if you want to be heavily defended and then be able to utilize some of those abilities. So it'll be key to getting her defense up and maintaining that throughout the game, so that she is going to be fully protected, or again, being able to hit your opponents from range. So it's going to be up to you as the player to decide how best to utilize her. From here, let's go ahead and talk about her backstory. So as a baby, she was found on a doorstep, or left on a doorstep, with her bamboo sword, and so the people that found her decided to raise her as their own, keeping the sword hidden from her until her 16th birthday, when they presented her with that. From that point on, she had an affinity for that and felt like that was something that was missing from her, and she trained heavily. And as her training went on, she ended up getting visions of this situation where the gods were arguing over this creation that one of them had created that was a beast or monster, and at that point then she ended up growing nails and claws, and she knew something was hiding within her trying to get loose. So from that point on, she dedicated the rest of her life to determining what was inside her and how to get rid of it, or how to free herself from it, as well as she started getting an affinity, or figuring out where other beasts and creatures were that were roaming her different village and towns, and so she set off to destroy them as well. So from here, let's go ahead and take a look at her cards, breaking down each one of her decks and determining how to use them. Her attack deck is going to focus on short-range attacks that are going to be amplified by the amount of defense that she has. So she's going to start with the Ascendant Light. This one is going to be a range 1, damage 1, plus the basic card she plays to activate this, and then she's going to gain an additional point of damage for each 3 defense that she currently has. Then we're going to move into the Ascendant Glory, which is going to simply do the same thing, except for it's going to increase her base damage by 1 point. So she's going to do 2 damage instead of 1. Then she's going to unlock her first twist card, which is Swift Reprisal. This one is going to let you gain your maximum defense, or it's going to boost your maximum defense by 1. So instead of being 6, now she has a maximum defense of 7 if this is her first card. And these are going to be cumulative with other twist cards effects, as she's going to have a number of these that will allow her to go all the way up to defense of 9. And then once per turn, she can also choose to play a defensive card as an attack card. And it's going to be based on whatever level that defense card she plays is. From there, then she's going to move on to Ascendant Avatar, and this is going to be the high level card here. This will do 3 damage, and then we'll do exactly the same stuff as the other 2 lower levels. Finally, she's going to finish off with her final twist, which is Reflexive Repose, and with this one, at the end of each of your turns, you're going to gain +2 defense, and this is also going to be cumulative with other effects. So as she unlocks these, she is going to become more and more defensive, gaining free defensive points each turn, allowing her to fuel some of these other cards of hers. Kaguya's defensive deck is going to both give her defense and allow her to cycle through her deck, being able to draw cards and either add them to their hand if they are defensive cards, or being able to either add them back to the pile or discard. So she's going to start with Addled Echoes. With this one, it's going to add +1 defense, plus whatever defensive card she plays to activate this. Then she's going to reveal the top card of her deck and add it to her hand if it is a defensive card. If not, you cannot use wild cards in this way. Otherwise, you're going to discard it or place it back. Then she's going to move on to Bygone Echoes, and this one is going to increase her defense by 1, plus adding that on, and then now she can reveal the top 2 cards of her deck, and again choose to add them if they're defensive cards, or add them back or discard them. Then she's going to lock her first twist, which is Blood Moon. With this one, it is going to increase her maximum defense limit by 1 again, and then this is also cumulative with her other twists. Finally, with this one, during your refresh phase, you can draw 1 card for each 3 defense that you have before you reset it. Finally, then you move on to Divine Echoes. With this one, it's going to give you +3 defense and your defense card that you played to activate this, and then you can reveal the top 3 cards and carry out the same actions as the previous 2. Finally, she'll finish off with her second twist, which again is the Reflexive Repose, and again this one is going to allow her to gain additional defense and is cumulative with her other twist cards of this nature. Kaguya's movement deck is very heavy into doing damage, as you're going to have a instant damage effect as well as an ongoing effect. So she's going to start with Focused Intent. With this one, your range is going to be based on the movement card you play to activate this, and it's going to do 1 damage. If you may lose 1 hit points in order to destroy a card in your hand or discard pile, giving you control over your deck. And then you have an ongoing effect. At the beginning of your next turn, you're going to inflict 2 damage on an opponent if she is beyond range 4 minus whatever movement cards you played to activate this. So the higher the movement card, the lower the range that she is going to need to be away for you to be able to do damage. Then you're going to move over to the Focused Resolve, and this is going to be a little bit stronger with 2 damage, and again will let you do the same thing with it increasing the damage to 4 if your opponent is beyond that point. From there, then you're going to unlock your first twist, which is Uncanny Instinct. With this one, it is again going to increase your maximum defense by 1, and then it's also going to give you a limit once per turn action. If the opponent's defense is lower than yours, you may move her 1 space in any direction. So this will give you control over your opponent, potentially moving her farther away to be able to take advantage of some of these other cards. From there, then you're going to move over to Focused Ascent, and this one is going to be the most powerful version of this, giving you 3 damage straight away and potentially adding 6 additional damage if your opponent is beyond the range of this ability. Then you're going to finish off with your second twist, which again is the Reflexive Repose, and is going to work exactly the same way as the previous 2, giving you +2 defense. Kaguya's epic cards are going to play very strongly to her defensive abilities. First off, we have Blazing Shania. With this one, it is going to have an ongoing effect, which is going to have until the beginning of your next turn, you will not take damage or lose HP unless you choose to, so very powerful. Then you have the Judgment Rising. This one is going to give you 6 defense and is going to have another ongoing effect. At the beginning of your next turn, the opponent loses X HP if her defense is lower than yours, and the amount of damage she's going to take is going to be equal to that difference in defense. Finally, you have the Impulsive Onslaught, which is simply going to do straight damage to your opponent. With this one, you're going to place your opponent in one of your range 1 spaces, and then inflict 3 damage to her. And then it's also going to have an ongoing effect. At the beginning of your next turn, you again may place the opponent in one of your range 1 spaces and inflict 3 damage to her. Well, I hope that you found this video helpful and gave you a little bit of insight into this particular fable. I will have videos covering each one of the fables, as well as some other videos covering Twisted Fables. So check those out as well, and always let me know in the comments down below what you think of these, if you found them helpful, and if you have any other questions or comments, post those in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I do appreciate it and take into account everything you say to make the best possible videos. Until next time, I'll see you later.